I'm your host, Jeff Sart. We're going to take you behind the scenes with the craft distillers who are pouring their heart and soul into crafting the next version of America's spirit. This is the Great American Whiskey Cookers. Casey Jones was known for making square pot stills. His last one sat in a museum of sorts for decades. Then, AJ and Peg had a brand new one built using Casey Jones's plans. What was once old is brand new and making whiskey. Welcome to this edition of the Great American Whiskey Cookers. We are here in Western Kentucky at Casey Jones Distillery, and I'm talking with AJ, Peg, and Cody. And we are here in the still room, and I've got the square still behind us and the other pot still behind us. So we've talked a little bit about this. So tell me about this still here, the square still.
So this still, the square still, is actually known as the grandfather still. So it's built after my grandfather's design, which was Casey. It's a square style that he did with a condenser, which, you know, he started doing these back in 1930. So this type still was well above his timeline. Right. Be building stills with condenser. This particular one we had built with buyers, manufacturers built all the rest of our other still. And it's a steam version, so not fired by gas or propane, and I kind of like that better. It's not a little less risky, you know. But this thing runs great, and the first time I ever saw it was at an American Distilling Conference in St. Louis, and that thing stood up, and to me it looked like it stood 20 feet tall, you know, because it was right in the middle of the big showroom, and it was kind of exciting to see it and for it all to come, you know, actually true, you know. And
I can see, I mean, there's a handle on the top there, there's a handle here on the side. Mm-hmm. And you were talking about the handles were put there so that you could pick it up and walk with it, right? You could take it with you.
Yes.
And you're obviously not going to do that here. I mean, it's a permanent install.
Yeah.
But you had the handles put on.
Yeah.
Why?
Because it's part of his traditional look and style and the things that he was known for, you know.
And so this is a pot still,
mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
So how many gallons, when you make a batch, how many gallons come off of it?
That's a 200 gallon.
200 gallons.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how much you're going to get out of it.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, your usable product off your still is usually like 10 to 14%, something like that.
Right.
Of the actual gallonage, wide gallonage is what you'll get in parts, usable product that you can use going forward.
Very cool. And then you have the bigger pot still over here. How big is this one?
Yeah, so this is 1,000 gallon.
1,000 gallon. So you're making the whiskey on this one, you're making moonshine on this one?
Yes, most of the time it's moonshine, most of the time it's whiskey. Okay. We do both, like we run moonshine on this one as well. We're making a moonshine product for somebody else that we ran on both of these.
Because you do some contract distilling.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And just for a little bit further clarification, so the moonshine is actually used to make the clear shine that you would assume to be moonshine, but it's also the product that we use to make our barrel cut products.
Okay.
So the barrel cut being the aged version of that spirit, and that's all coming off the spare hot still.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. Heads, hearts, tails, right? How do you guys make your cuts?
Well, it's just something taste-wise, and you soon develop a pattern with your product, you know. If everything's going accordingly as planned, it's going to be a pretty precise cut every time. But taste has a lot to do with it. You
know? You're doing it.
When you're making your cuts to your hearts, you can tell about smell and taste. It's okay now. Yeah. And it's not prior to that, you know. And the same thing with the tails. You can tell when you get too much of that. How do I want to put that, Cody? It's too much.
It gets grainy. And the texture gets off.
And watered down.
Okay.
Yeah, watered down taste as well.
And you can tell the taste difference.
Yeah.
And you've been doing it long enough that you can pick that up, right?
This is actually one of the pieces of the art of craft distilling with a pot still specifically. In a column, you'll have plates that you set. Those plates will actually do the cuts for you. Of course, you have to set it.
Yeah.
But for the pot still, you're actually making your cuts between your heads, hearts, and tails every line. And so you're imparting your skill as a distiller every time you do a run.
Sure.
That's though.
So, you're making the whiskey on this one? You're making moonshine on this one?
Yes,
Is that
most
right?
of the time it's moonshine, most of the time it's whiskey.
Okay.
We do both, like we run moonshine on this one as well. We're making a moonshine product for somebody else that we ran on both of these.
Because you do some contract distilling.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And just for a little bit further clarification, so the moonshine is actually used to make the clear shine that you would assume to be moonshine, but it's also the product that we use to make our barrel cut products.
Okay.
So the barrel cut being the aged version of that spirit, and that's all coming off of the spirit hot still.
And you're putting up, remind me one more time, how many barrels for you guys are you putting up a week or a month or a year?
So we're doing a little over 2.5 barrels a day.
Right.
So in 3 days, we might be doing, say 8 barrels maybe a week for us right now. Yeah.
So around
Could do
24
more.
barrels a month, give or take.
Yeah.
Right, 24, 25 barrels a month, give or take.
It's hard for a small craft distillery to
Yeah.
not go get 1,000 barrels produced. Well, they don't need that much. So that space, we've done a really good job of being able to fit in to help people that don't, maybe they need 10 barrels. So we can do that.
Right. And I've heard that from a number of craft distillers, and it's not something you see in a lot of industries where a friendly competitor, I mean, you're all competing in the same space for shelf space, right? Is willing to loan out there or contract their equipment and help a friendly competitor make their product. It's kind of unique to the whiskey industry, I think. What else do I need to know about these two stills sitting here that I haven't asked you?
Well, obviously the grandfather still, being the showpiece that it is, overshadows the 1,000-gallon, but it is worth discussing just the particularities of this particular still. So this is a traditional 1,000-gallon pot by itself.
Okay.
You'll see that we've got an onion on top of that, a traditional lean arm off of that rolls into this 4-plate column unit here with a defragmenter on top, 4-plate condenser. And then to the right of that is a standalone condenser. Now, this particular setup in some is a hybrid pot setup. Now, some hybrid pots actually will have these plates in the onion.
Really?
And so they're a part of, you see a lot of Vendome stills actually like that. They're part of the actual pot itself. So you, even with the plates open, you're still using the plates. They're having an effect on that spirits. In this particular configuration, we can bypass the 4-plate defragmenter entirely and just go straight to the column and do what's called a stripping run.
Sure.
Or we can turn on the 4-plate column defragmenter and we can redistill in each one of these plates to improve the proof. So in one pass, we can do easily 155 proof bourbon right off the still like that.
One pass we could do 190 proof, but that's way above bourbon.
Yeah. We have
So,
to.
yeah.
But you could get into vodka territory with it
Yeah.
if you wanted to.
If you really
wanted
wanted
to.
And this one, like you said, this is off to the side, which makes it easier to clean and maintenance and get to your plates and everything than if it was on top of this pot.
All right, so a question for you. Sweet mash or sour mash? Which one do you use?
We make sweet and sour mash.
Well, hang on. Wait a minute. What do you mean you make sweet and sour? Back up. Time out. Hang on. Distilleries either do a sweet mash or they do a sour mash. I mean,
On our moonshines, we do a sour mash. On our whiskeys, we do a sweet mash.
okay. All right. That explains. So,
And that's the reason why she said sweet and sour.
yeah, I mean, there's a big difference, right?
Yeah, big difference. Yeah.
So your moonshine, you're doing a sour mash. Your whiskeys, you're doing a sweet mash. You're starting every single time with that sweet mash, right?
Right.
That's interesting. You're doing both of those. I don't think I've heard of many distilleries doing that.
Doing both of them.
Yeah.
How difficult is that to maintain?
Well, if you have to stop for a long period, then you've got to get that sour mash started back up again. It takes a little bit of process when that happens. But if you're doing distilling every day, every week, it's not an issue to happen. So
Very cool. Interesting. I did not expect that. They do both sweet and sour mash. That's great.
I will tell you one thing about this whole distillery process. We spent a lot of time up front looking at equipment, talking about equipment, laying out the space, and try to make everything flow like it needs to, from the corn to the mash cooker to the fermenter, to be able to do it with without as many people. So somebody who's missing, you can still do your production. Gavin, who does most of the fermentation now, half a day,
Really?
he's done, He can do whatever else we need done, spend time cooking. A lot of times he jumps over on the still for half a day, And so he's now learned the distillation process. So has my maintenance guy, and so has my grandson. They've all been taught the distillation process now, too.
So where do they find you? How do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so you can reach us at CaseyJonesDistillery.com. That's our website. We've got a newsletter you can sign up for there. We're on Twitter, we're on TikTok, we're on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.
Fantastic. Guys, thank you. I appreciate showing us the stills and everything that's going on here and the intricacies of running the still. Super fun. You can find us at thegreatamericanwhiskeycookers.com, all the socials, obviously. And if you really want to, you can go to our Patreon site, become a member, and show us some love. Till next time, be good at it.